Hi, I'm Dr. Kristen Kopaz. I wanted to come to you this week to talk about vicarious trauma and the stress that viewing trauma and traumatic elements on television or kind of secondary, hearing the accounts of things that are traumatic, how that can affect us. I know lately the world has been full of opportunities to see and hear traumatic information. The news doesn't seem to filter out graphic images or really graphic descriptions of things going on overseas anymore. And it can really create a lot of secondary trauma for people who watch a lot of news or hear a lot of these stories. The more empathic, of course, people are at higher risk. Those who view this kind of material for a living, like journalists, news reporters, people who hear it in their office, like therapists, are at a higher risk of secondary trauma or vicarious trauma. They mean the same thing. I have noticed, though, that more people lately have been coming to me and talking about this feeling of secondary trauma who aren't in those fields, because the news is so full of traumatic information and difficult, painful, sad news that, like I said, is just not filtered like it used to be, whether because the news is coming through on streaming channels or whether we're getting them on our social media, and we're bombarded. It's not just that we see it or we hear it, but we're also just bombarded day in and day out with the information. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what to do if we're feeling some of this at the end, but I want to just briefly talk about the idea of what we can do to limit our exposure. For starters, many people will feel guilty when they think about limiting exposure to news when there's something like a war overseas, because they feel like it's my duty to be informed, but also, what does it say about me if I'm avoiding that or if I'm not seeing that? They feel like survivor guilt. I get to be alive. I'm lucky. I shouldn't complain that I have to hear about it or see it. But the truth is, it doesn't change what's happening for the people who are going through trauma if we limit our exposure, if we set some boundaries around when we take in information, right? We might want to be informed and have that information come to us, or to be able to know if there's organizations that we can contribute to or work through to help others who are going through difficult times. But it doesn't mean we have to have it on the hour, every hour, all day long, or every time we check our email or check to see how our friends are doing, to get bombarded with something. So one of the things I really counsel people to do if they're struggling with this is to limit the amount of exposure they have to the news, and really prioritize the news information at a time when it feels like they have the most internal strength for it. So for some people, they're morning people, they feel like they're doing the best in the morning. Watching the news for half an hour in the morning might be the best time for them. Take it in, find out what they need to know, and then they turn it off and make an agreement with themselves that they don't watch it the rest of the day. Some people are more like, I need on my lunch hour, that really works. Then my coworkers are great support for me if I need to chat afterwards. Other people do like the evening news. Maybe they don't have children in the house. They can do that without exposing anyone else, but turning it off before, bedtime. Give yourself plenty of time to wind down if you're an evening news person, so it's not the last thing you listen to, see, and hear before bed. And also just the amount of time, right? Thinking about, do I watch it for 2 hours versus 15 minutes or half hour? And with our social media, that can be even more difficult because we don't even realize the amount of time we're taking in this information. We're, scrolling through and liking people's posts, or feeling like we're doing something by, putting in a comment and saying, yeah, I agree, or sending prayers. But one of the things that we know in psychology that can happen is, not only are we getting that information too often where our brains never get a chance to settle and feel calm, but also if we're just pressing the like button or heart button, we often aren't doing something that actually helps us feel like we're doing something, if that makes sense. By just putting in sort of our opinion about somebody else's thoughts or images, We don't take the time necessarily to, let's say, organize to join a charitable, maybe put together something that would be helpful. One of the things that can be helpful is finding what works for you to help others who are going through difficult times. And it may be the stuff you're actually seeing on TV and the news, or it might be a different group. Like maybe you spend some time putting together holiday packages for kids in need here in our country. And it doesn't necessarily have to do with the people in need in another country, but it can still feel like a good outlet for feeling like you're doing good in the world. You're putting something out there that can be really helpful. It could be giving money to a cause that you really care about, researching which one feels like the best cause for you to contribute to. These things can feel like we actually are doing something. We're taking steps to be a part of things, writing letters to our Congress people. These are active steps as opposed to like a heart or a like where it's very passive, and we felt okay for the moment, but long term we kind of get left feeling empty. Like all I have is more feelings of needing to do something and not feeling like I actually finished the project and did what I wanted to do to help out somebody else. So keep that in mind, that we want to be selective about how we put that energy into the world. And the time and the energy could be much better placed, even if you don't have a lot of money or time, into a small gesture of helping others, whether it be, like I said, through gifts, money, or even just writing a letter. The next thing we want to do is also prioritize time to not be watching the news and relaxation. So having it turned off, and that includes your notifications. So if you have, Facebook, Snapchat, X, whatever you're watching and listening to, Instagram, you can go into your phone settings and you can tell the notifications to turn off, right? Those notifications that you have new stuff will still be there when you open the app. When you go to look, it'll still tell you what's new and what people have done or said, but it's not going to pop up on your phone constantly on that home screen telling you, go look, go look, go look. So you have a lot more control about when you're going to go, how often you're going to settle in and check that, where you are, so it's not hitting you at times where now you're distracted from something that might be healthier for you. You're trying to work out, or you're trying to relax, or you're trying to watch a show, or you're trying to be with your family. And so it gives you a lot more control if you have those notifications off. So I highly suggest that. And as far as the relaxation, I want to speak to that a little bit more. There are a couple of types of relaxation that are better than others when we've had a lot of secondary trauma or experiencing vicarious trauma, or anyone with a history of post-traumatic stress disorder, which is not the same thing. Seeing something secondhand cannot be a criteria for having full-blown post-traumatic stress disorder, but sometimes people have a history of PTSD and they get vicarious trauma or secondary trauma later. And so if any of these things are going on, we actually don't suggest any types of silent meditation where you try to clear the mind or sit with an empty mind. That can actually allow for time and space for images and thoughts of trauma to come into the brain. So I highly suggest some quiet time doing relaxation that fills your mind with something positive. So that could be a visualization of your favorite place. It could be listening to somebody do a meditation that walks you through imagery or walks you through an active meditation. So you're filling your mind with whatever those words are that really talk to you about like using your five senses, noticing what's around you. You might even choose to keep your eyes open during these types of meditations. So it could be sitting there looking out of a window and just really observing all the different things, the colors, the sounds, and really taking some time to just be present in this exact moment and fill the mind. So you're not emptying it, because that can be a big difference of the kind of meditation that can be helpful for those going through trauma versus, someone who doesn't have trauma, it's not worrying about secondary trauma. The other piece that we can do when we're relaxing is to try to get the body on board with it. So we watch these images, we get all this information about the traumatic stuff going on in the world, and our body gets revved up as if we're about to walk outside into that same place we just saw on the TV. And so telling our body, I am safe, I am okay, that's a really important piece after you turn off that TV or you get off that social media that might have activated you. So take some time, take some deep breaths all the way down to the bottom of the belly. expanding that belly out. There's some techniques. If you look up 1 minute mindfulness, that can be helpful. Diaphragmatic breathing, that can be helpful. A simple one is to take a deep breath in, hold it. They often say like playing like an instrument, where you're going to try to push out, but you're going to clench up all of those muscles down in the belly while you have a full belly of air. It allows the vagal nerve to get activated, which tells your body to calm down. It gives it that sense of, I am okay and I'm safe. You might even have a mantra in your mind that you say a few times. Right now in this home, I am safe. Right now in this building, I am safe. Right now my family is okay. Whatever that might be. If that's not accurate for you, find a mantra that is, right? I have done everything I can in this moment to help myself or to help my family. But finding things that work for you that help your body to know it's okay to let go of that traumatic experience and come into a safe, calming place for the moment. You want to really balance distraction with intention, right? So if we're intentionally watching the news or we're intentionally trying to do a meditation or relax, is it great? But sometimes it's okay to just distract yourself too, right? To go do something that gets you busy, gets you involved. Cooking, using your hands for whatever it might be. It's getting a little chilly outside to do gardening, but it could be building a project. It could be painting something. It could just be getting involved with your animals, And so if you have something that keeps you busy and distracted, that's not a bad thing either. It's all about balance. Okay. So I hope these were helpful hints for you. I really want to open up the conversation because a lot of people are experiencing struggles with what they're seeing on TV. Their heart is breaking for the world. And we can find ourselves starting to have the same symptoms as someone with post-traumatic stress disorder when we're really empathetic and we take in a lot of this secondary trauma, vicarious trauma. It can create the numbing. It can create the feeling extra startled. It can create sleep deprivation and difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, nightmares, just feeling angry and irritable all the time. It can create a lot of symptoms and they can sneak up on us slowly. So maybe take some stock, notice yourself, notice how you've been doing lately, and maybe choose to make some changes that are healthy for you to limit that exposure, prioritize some healthy moments. They don't have to take very long. Reach out, get some social support around these things. And if you're really struggling, of course, reach out for professional help. There are therapists who are happy to help with this, to go into much more detail and can really help you understand if you are experiencing any types of vicarious trauma or post-traumatic stress disorder. And they can really be an advocate for you, help you to learn skills for relaxation and helping with anxiety, helping with sleep. So if you are having these difficulties, please reach out to a professional. I really appreciate you listening today, and I hope this was helpful to just start that thought process and that conversation about what you can do to help yourself during these difficult times. I really feel blessed to have you here with me and that you got through the end of this and watched. It always means so much to me. If you want to hear more, feel free to hit that subscribe button. It does encourage me to keep making these, and I will see you again next time. This is Dr. Kristen Kopacz, clinical psychologist. Thanks so much. Bye.